have such an interesting last name, and I thought we'd start with that. Stanislaus. Where does that come from? What does it mean?
Okay, so I am born into a Catholic family, and when I was supposed to be baptized, the priest said there is no Saint Nigel, and if he needs to go to heaven to register his name, he needs to have a saint's name. And at that point, I probably was a few months old, and my dad told the priest and said, "Why don't you give him a name?" And the Polish priest said, Stanislaus. So there you got it, Stanislaus. And when I grew up and I came to Australia, my agent at that time couldn't pronounce, and this was years ago, they didn't know how to pronounce my last name. I wouldn't disclose it anymore. But they said, "Have you got a middle name to brand me?" So it's like Andrew, Marcus, whatever. And I said, Stanislaus. And they go like, "Okay, so Nigel Stanislaus it is." It sort of became, I guess now, like a stage name, but people said, "Mr. Stanislaus." I was like, "Yes," that kind of thing. It's been a while.
And I read that your whole life is about women and your mom had 7 sisters. So how
Yeah.
has all that kind of feminine energy influenced you growing up?
My mom was one of 7 sisters. And when I was really, really young, I stayed with my paternal grandmother. So there's a feminine energy there. Daddy was always internationally working. So I see him like a few times a year. But I would stay with grandma and my auntie, and they would teach me the ways of life. And that was the only way I knew it, which is, of course, the more feminine energy way of how to attack things and how to approach things and all that. And of course, on my mother's side, when I went out on outings and things like that, it was always my mom and all my ai that would come to teach me. Like, they taught me how to swim, they taught me how to ride a bike, they taught me how to cook, they taught me how to sing, have fun, even makeup as well. And to me, that was the way of life growing up. I didn't understand what was wrong with a boy doing flower arrangement. I couldn't be more excited because that was the only way I knew how to do it. That's my environment, which I feel very lucky.
Didn't you used to watch your grandma put on her makeup and you thought it was the most glamorous thing as well?
Oh, absolutely. She used to take care of me and she would take me to church. And I realized there's this ritual that she would get her hair done at the salon and I would follow her to the salon. So my earliest memories of scent, other than the kitchen, would be the hairspray and then Hazeline Snow. So I would patiently wait for her to get ready. And then I start to notice after this transformation, she'll get dressed and then she'll go out and I go like, "Oh, that was fantastic," and then I realized from a very early age what front of house is and then back of house. So I knew the importance of presentation and how it could change a person, and the power of fashion, hair, and makeup could really elevate a person into society. And I never not knew that. Like, in my mind, everybody has like a back of house and then a front of house. I didn't know any other ways. Sometimes I'm shocked with some of my friends from school that the back of house is the front of house. And I was like, huh? Like, you wouldn't want to put something in your hair or something to make it a bit nicer? It's just my upbringing. Everything is about aesthetics, grace, all in the spirit to respect the opposite person that you're spending time with, like a respect.
Do you feel like you were starting to try and experiment to find out what your preferred front of house was, to see who you were, what you liked?
Oh, if there was anything that could be put on my head, on my face, on my body, I've done it. Whether it was making costumes, my dad's older sister, my Coco, I remember one time we bought this big roll of raffia string and then we made it into like a Hawaiian grass skirt because we watched Elvis Presley in the Hawaiian wedding. And she goes, "Do you want to make a grass skirt?" And I was like, "Okay." And then we made this like wondrous grass skirt that just went everywhere. And then it tied around the waist and it just moved and everything was going everywhere at once. And I thought it was so magnificent. Or like, I'll take that and I'll put it across it. I could be a tribal chief or drawing my face into a certain way. Like, transformation was fantastic. It was like breathing. It was a form of self-expression. I'm quite amazed how I don't own a cosplay kind of company. But I guess at the end of the day, I just want to like wipe everything off and just go to bed because I have my back of house, my original self, without packaging, still in the factory.
I mean, I love to hear that story that you and your family were so free in finding yourself, expressing yourself, which is quite unusual, I suppose, for someone growing up in Singapore, where it's a little bit rigid. You must be a doctor, lawyer, engineer. How did that gel?
I don't know. Like, I guess I was lucky in a way because of my upbringing. My aunties were very kind. Sometimes they're very worried that I would rather stay at home and make kueh tat with them than to go and play soccer with my friends. I mean, why? You're so sweaty and so smelly and like snot goes everywhere. There's like dirt on your shoes. Like, I don't understand. And it's so hot. It's like, And like, I don't understand what is the joy of that with a bunch of guys screaming at each other, chasing a ball across the field with mud everywhere. Like, what's the point? I'd rather stay at home and drink some tea and play with some, pastry. And then at the end of 5 hours, at least you get jars of pineapple tarts, for example. Like, it just makes so much more sense. And then you can take that and show love, share in the community, to give them to people that you care about. In my mind, that was just so much more practical, I guess. I didn't ask for skateboard or like skates or anything like that. It was really weird. And I think all my aunties and aunties and all my uncles thought, he's very interesting, isn't he?
Do you feel worried for yourself that, you feel so differently compared to all these other guys for some reason?
I was always worried in the sense that I was a bit taller, very flamboyant, very chubby, where all my other friends scale walls and climb the gates and run away from school. I never did do that because I couldn't scale the walls. And I was so afraid to get my white uniform dirty. So I just like, so much trouble. I'll just stay and just do my Chinese lessons or something like that. It wasn't that I was any less naughty. I just don't think I had the physical capabilities to do any of that. But my friends in school, we're still in touch. They're all daddies now. They've always been very kind to me. And I'm very lucky I've never been bullied for being myself. Maybe because I'm a bit bigger and I could sit on them. Look at me, like, who wants to bully me? Like, being like, nah, no point. Just let him go. It's like, look at my face. So I've been very lucky. I've been very lucky to not have to go through that. Once in a while, yeah, people do make a comment, but whatever. I've got my chicken wings to eat than to have a fight with you.
So how do you end up studying apparel design and merchandising at Temasek Polytechnic?
So I graduated from my O-levels and everybody wanted to do something. And at that time, I really wanted visual merchandising and I couldn't get in. There was apparel design and merchandising. And I was like, it sounds awful. And I realized it was fashion design. So I got there and I did it and I had the best time. Like, the teachers are so different. The teachers knew things like Dior and Issey Miyake and Chanel. And we talk about all these kind of brands from Paris it was so glamorous. And my job was I remembered one time we had a homework was to watch Barbarella, the film. Compared to my friends in business school, I think they're still watching like pie charts and all that. And I'm like, I need to go to like the museum today because that's my homework. As a kid, that was like the best thing in the world, to sit around and discuss about colors and how to match colors together and all that. It was the best thing. It's like so much better than holding a calculator and then doing pie charts. And I would never have done that. But when I told that to my parents, it was very interesting because they kind of go like, okay, we don't know how to advise you, but you do you as long as you know what you're doing. I remember my mother said, like, if you think it's good, just go for it, because there's no one in my family that I feel that I could ask. If I want to be an accountant, I could ask an Ai. Ai, can you teach me how to do this job? Is it good or not? Like, I didn't know. My sister had that. I think she did business side of stuff and accounting and all that. So I had some aunties that were CFOs and all that, and they can give her advice with HR and all that kind of thing. But here I want to do fashion. People was like, shopping. But I don't regret it. I cannot imagine anything else. I really cannot imagine anything else of my past, which is very interesting. Sometimes I look back and go like, how did I do that? Or if I had a child that was like me, I would be so worried because like, wow, that was a big jump. Because there's nobody left and right and go, who wants to do this? Like, nobody knows what's happened. It's kind of like very unnerving, like the vaccine now. Everyone's like, I don't even know what's going to do, that kind of thing. So I took that leap of faith and I just go, that gut feeling that you have, like that same gut feeling has been with me my whole life. And I'm also quite like, I realized at a much later age that people like me are a bit frantic sometimes, and I could be smiling and then the elevator door opens, I walk out of a totally different person because the weather changed, the atmospheric pressure changed. And I think they called me like an intuitive empath. So like I could read the room. Like if I look at someone, sometimes I go like, how are you? And I touch them, I go like, what's wrong? What, do you have to tell me something? Or like I could feel nervous energy or happiness. Or sometimes I feel like rays of sunshine. And sometimes I feel like very musky. Not that I can smell it, but it's like I just have this kind of like gut feeling, I guess, the sixth sense that people have. And the older I get, the stronger, especially in young children. It's very bizarre. Like with young children who cannot express themselves, sometimes I feel like I totally get what you're saying.
It must have been so interesting when you got that internship in New York as well, and you were suddenly exposed to all these different people doing these things that they love so passionately.
Yeah, it was such a jackpot for me because I wanted to go to New York because I watched this TV show called Fame, the dance, and it's like so nice, Leroy Johnson. I really want to be a dancer, but I can't even climb a wall, so how are you going to dance? So I went to go to New York. CAUS opened up and said, we would love to have you as an intern. It would have to be self-funded. Now, this is where I'm also very lucky. It's like I've got a father that could afford it. It was a lot of money to get me there, to house me for the time and all that kind of thing. And this was in the 90s as well. Also without iPhones, without maps, without personal phones. I had a bunch of traveler's checks and that was it.
Wow.
And when I got there, it wasn't even winter, but it was like October and it was so cold that I had to go to the payphone and actually dial a collect or something like that in public talking to my mom.
Oh my goodness. What was it like just landing in New York and having to figure things out yourself?
I don't know, my whole life, I live in movies. My whole life is movies. So in my mind, it'll be like, oh my gosh, it's going to be coming to America, like Eddie Murphy or like everything. I could turn around the corner. It could be everything is a reference to a movie or TV show. If I cook something, it's like, oh my gosh, it's Little Nonya. Everything is a TV show. So to me at that time, it's like, oh my gosh, it's like Eddie Murphy coming to America. Or the graffiti on the wall. I've never seen graffiti in my life. Like trash cans, people, swearing on the streets, and so many kinds of people, African American people, Jamaican people, all these accents. You're walking down the street and you're listening to all these accents. It was really such a big melting pot. And I met friends as well. They were brought up, in America. I had such a good and loving upbringing, and some of them are not as lucky, so they don't understand why I don't seek to do drugs or drink myself blind, because I don't think I was ever that unhappy, because every time I did a little frown, my grandma go, "I jia popiah mai." Okay. You want ice kacang? Okay. Just did this. You want chicken rice? Okay. So it would be nice to go back just to say hi to everyone that has now passed on and what they were wearing at that time and what they ate at the time. I used to be quite embarrassed coming from Singapore because it's Asian and we speak like la 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 ha ha ha, that kind of thing. And I really put in a lot of effort to learn enunciation and how to pronounce things right. Not perfect, but I made an effort to sound a little bit more international, a bit more global. I guess that really helped me in the long run, because then I could stand on the stage, on a global stage, and present. But at a young age, it's like, I cannot look like Chow Ah-beng from that corner there speaking like that. It was my front of house branding that I had to keep up. Back of house, I'm like grunting and but the front of house, you have to be quite like in a modern day Michelle Obama.
Yeah.
Like, you just have to, energy is like, when you look at her, you're like, okay, what do you want to say to me? I'll give you time. And I really want to have that kind of energy that is entertaining, caring as well, empathetic and modern, I hope. But in saying that, I'm also quite old-fashioned.
Wasn't New York the place where you were exposed to fashion shows and models for the first time?
Yes.
I think someone invited you to go and see Kate Moss. That was your first exposure.
Oh, they invited me to go watch a show, and I said no. And then they said Kate Moss would be backstage, and I go like, okay. And then that time it was CK1 that was all the rage. Every kid was saving money to buy CK, because why? It was the first ever unisex fragrance. Other than CK1, I had Dunhill, and I don't want to wear Dunhill, so I obviously tried to wear CK1. And anyway, so she said, so this guy from Federated that owns Macy's and all that, and he sort of came in as a speaker to my company that I worked at, the Color Association. And he said, do you want to come in, backstage and there's Kate Moss? And I was like, yes. So I went backstage. I met her, she was lovely. She was Kate Moss. But then I turned around and sort of looked around like this, with my eyes. And I saw this like bright lights. It was like bright lights, all these bulbs everywhere that reminded me of like a hawker center. Like, oh my gosh, hawker center, like all the bright lights everywhere. I turned around and it was the makeup station. So I was just like, what is this? And then my mentor at that time, he said, do you want to be a makeup artist? And I said, oh no, boys don't do makeup. Boys only do fashion design. I don't know if this is karma, but I remember the time, no, I'm only here for fashion design. I want to be like Bill Blass or Oscar de la Renta or Calvin Klein or Ralph Lauren, like kind of all the American kind of designers. And yeah, it was quite weird. And I went to fashion school and I realized I couldn't sew because you think you would need to sew at fashion school. And my teacher goes like, oh my goodness, we have a fashion show, but the MAC makeup artist did not turn up. Can you do some makeup? And I was like, yeah, I sure can, because I can draw. And I did it. And everybody was like, oh my goodness, they all look amazing. So obviously at that time, I wanted to draw everybody like Madonna and Blonde Ambition tour because it was such a thing. It was so long ago. I think that really started it. And of course, this was after I went to New York, but in New York, I remember I met this guy called Seth, and he was working at Origins counter. He was so beautiful. I remember like when he dressed up as a girl and he went out, like he really looked like Linda Evangelista, and he spoke really softly. And I guess that was my first experience of having a transgender friend at 18 years old. And I was like, huh? In the daytime you're tapo, and then nighttime you jamo. It's like really bizarre, but so beautiful. And the way he did it was not like a drag queen, but was more like a woman in the energy. Again, you know, very capable. I would just look at him while he gets ready for the clubs and all that. He'll just line his lips and he goes like, do you know what I'm doing? And I was like, what? And he goes like, I'm lining my lips. And I was like, okay, I'm using an Origins lip pencil in iced tea. And I was like, oh. And that was the first product I ever known, like in my adult. Origins lip pencil and iced tea. Okay, it's the best nude pencil ever. I was like, okay, I remembered that. And then when I first had my my makeup kit, that was the first thing I bought: Origins lip pencil and iced tea. And I don't think they sell it anymore. So long ago, we're talking about 1996. You know what I mean? But I have a memory like that. Things that I collect and.
That's amazing. And so you had that experience, you came back, but before you did fashion, you were in national service, right?
Oh, yes. I did fashion.
Okay.
Then I went to New York. I was like 18, 19 or something like that. And then I think 19, I did national service.
And before you
So-
went there, you shaved your head.
Yes, out of defiance, because people are like, oh my gosh, you're gonna be botak, you're gonna be botak. Everybody says you're gonna be botak. I go to church, people say you're gonna be botak. Like everywhere. It's like, oh my God, are you prepared? You're gonna be botak, you're gonna be botak. And at that time, when I had so much hair, not anymore, but at that time I had so much hair, like I really wanted to have that Aaron Kwok kind of hair, like that T-Sun, you know, that. And I thought my hair was just like so fantastic. And I got so angry that people were just like, oh, you're going to the army, you're going to the army. And I just didn't want to talk about it anymore. So I just wanted to shave it off. And then people, oh, you went in? I said, no, I've got 3 more months, but I just don't want to talk about it. So I just shaved it off so that people don't remind me anymore. So I'm quite like, just get it done with.
What was that experience like? Because it's so contrary to who you are as a person as well. But then you almost became a sniper, I hear.
I was really bad at everything. Really bad. Really, really, really bad. I was really smelly and really dirty and really bad. Like people would just run. They just run and they're so happy. They go into the mud and they come out. They're all smiling. They think it's like Survivor. And I look like a disaster survivor. Like, help me! That kind of thing. And everyone's like, yeah, high five and everything. Like, don't touch me. I was really, really tragically bad. My favorite time of the day was showering because then I could be clean and I could call my mom after shower. And that's all I wanted, you know. But amongst everything, I realized that we were all given guns to train in our M16s at that time. Surprisingly, in my foxhole, I could shoot. I could shoot nighttime, daytime, moving target, cross target, everything. I could shoot everything, like whether I'm proning, whether I'm kneeling. I can't kneel anymore. I think my stomach is too big. I could do this. I could do everything. And I thought, oh, not bad. And I'll be one of those that could like strip the rifle and put it back together and it'll be perfect much faster than anyone else. I'm telling you, it's because I've been doing Kueh Tat since I was 6 years old. So my fingers are very fast, but it was fantastic. And the only thing that I lacked 3 rounds. And that 3 rounds means I had to run 100 meters and then go and shoot the opponent about 5 meters from you. And because I was breathing like this, because I was so unfit, that my bullets went everywhere. But no, 100 meters, like a sniper, not a problem. But when you go up front, I can't shoot. Yeah, so almost had it. If I didn't miss that one, I probably would have been a sniper. Very funny. Very, very funny.
So ignoring the almost going to be a sniper part, you then came out, you went to Monash University. How did that happen?
I really wanted to apply for the fashion. I wanted to go back to New York at that time. I felt very robbed that I had to stop everything. And all the other interns went on to universities or were in universities, but my life had to be cut short into like exactly about 3 years. So when I came out and I went and applied for it, and then 9/11 hit, obviously being the only son and the first grandson of my clan, my parents were not going to send me there. And they would abolish me and abandon me into the far end of the earth, which was Australia. So begrudgingly I came and I've got families in Perth and Canberra and all that. And they wanted me to go to Perth to study. But when I went there, I was like, cannot. It's too quiet. And I had some money. So I applied for all the design schools in Australia and I got into Monash because it was a brand new building. They had a lot of computer sets to use and like the platform there was really good as well. It was very good because Everything was new. A lot of design schools don't have computers at that time. We're talking about 2000 here. So they don't have any of that at that time. And now everybody has one, but at that time it was really precious because you need time to spend in the computer labs, remember, to finish your project. And you really needed to do it. And then at 11 o'clock they close and you can't do it, for example. So they had a lot of, the facilities are fantastic. So, and the teachers are really good. That's why I went to Monash.
You flew through it, didn't you? You got 6 high distinctions.
Oh my gosh,
Amazing.
it was fantastic. I was so bad at everything in life. And then suddenly I was so good at everything in life. And then suddenly I was walking around, I was Brad Pitt or something like that. And history of fashion, illustration, everything was fantastic. I was like, oh my gosh, like I'm such a late bloomer, you know, like, and then all those times I was so worried about my O levels and like, oh my gosh, I'm a disaster. I'm only good at shooting guns and that's it, and making kway tuts and and dancing. And then now, you know, and then suddenly, like, I mean, we worked very, very hard. Like it was our life. We literally bled through the whole thing, and I was very proud. I had a scholarship and graduated and was headhunted by an illustrating firm, and I worked there for about 2 years illustrating books.
You have 8 books out there.
Yeah, by 5 Mile Press. Yeah, about 8. Yeah, I think 8. No, maybe about 12 actually.
But that whole time you were also doing freelance makeup as well on the side.
Oh yeah, I thought I didn't have to do it anymore because I thought now I am a graphic designer, like I'm not doing makeup anymore. And then I learned how to drive because then, you know, in Australia it's cheap to buy a car. So I learned how to drive, and my driving instructor said, can you do my makeup? And she said, how much do you want? I said, I don't know. She goes, I'll give you $50. And after I did it, she was so happy she threw another $50 down. It's like, that was $100. And then that's how it all started. They're like, it went ding. And I was like, since I've got the makeup, if people wanted to hire me, then why not? You know, yeah.
So how do you start to make your way up? Because eventually you were working with Australian brands as well, like Lovisa, CottonOn, Bardo. How do you get to that stage?
With an agent, and that agent was the one that wanted me to be called Nigel Stanislaus, remember?
Right.
So for the first 10 years of my life, every time I walked onto set, people were like, oh, we expected a 6'5" Polish man to walk in. But no, a Singaporean kid walks in, you know.
Before your agent, you had this period where this one person said, you're not going to make it because you don't fit the profile.
Oh yeah, when Matt came into it, it really broke my heart. When Matt came into Australia, I really want to get a part-time job. I thought the world of Mac at that time because it was all-inclusive, all races, all ages. And I went there and she basically said to me that I'm not pretty enough, maybe overweight, probably a boy. I don't know if it's anything to do with Asians or not, because I looked over there and they're all beautiful girls, beautiful actresses, you know. There was no one that looked like me, and I was really upset because I thought Mac was all-inclusive, but she didn't even want to have a bar of me. But the funny thing is, 5 years on, after I signed on as a makeup director for another brand, she came to one of my masterclasses and literally paid hundreds of dollars to sit in the crowd and watch me talk, which was like really bizarre.
Did she come up and speak to you later saying that I remember you?
Oh, yes. I said, thank you so much for coming today. And I reckon there was a crowd of like maybe 500 or 600 in the seminar room. And I said, any questions at all about any techniques or anything about my career or anything like that? And she said, oh, hi, my name is so-and-so. And I remember when you came to me for a job and blah, 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 blah. And I was like, oh my gosh, it's her, my nightmare, that phobia you have. And I was like, oh my gosh, it is her. And then I thought, what am I going to do? So I just smiled. And she even had the audacity to tell the whole room that she talent scouted me, which was like, I don't know which version of the truth you came from, girl, because that didn't happen, girl. Like, you told me to walk out, you know? And I was like, okay. And now that I'm in a fancy suit with a big spotlight and a big international brand behind me, then you want to come and watch me do my techniques that, no, I forgive, but I realize that I never forget.
Yeah.
I'm one person that I can forgive. I can like, oh, you know, it is what it is. But if you want me to trust you again, it's very hard. Very, very hard.
Yeah.
That's what I learned about myself.
When you first got that rejection, I think a lot of people who are doing something unconventional will get people saying, there's no way you can ever make it. I wonder, did you ever feel so, oh, I want to give up? If this person in such a big brand thinks this way, they're probably right. And what kept you going?
Oh yeah, I always think they're right for about 2 hours and 15 minutes, and then I'll cry and I feel sorry for myself. And then I write to my best friends and go, I want to jump off the building, but I never jump off the building. I always end up sitting in a corner eating ice cream or something, and I'm so dramatic. And I hate this, I hate myself, I hate. Until someone goes, hey, you want to go hot pot? I'm like, okay. And then suddenly it was like sunshine again. As you can see, food really drives my life and my mental psyche. And I cried. And I go like, I never want to be a makeup artist again. Like, I can't believe the world is so cruel and so this. And then there's always this fire inside of me. I don't know, my gut feeling, the guardian angels, the spirit of the world's God, Allah, Buddha, they sort of like light a fire in me. And then I go, take a deep breath, give it one more go, and don't apologize. Don't apologize. Do not stop like it's not an option. And then I go, all right, because I've really been rejected, so I've got nothing. So what else can I lose? Because you can't lose anything when you got nothing. I was like, it's still zero. So might as well just ask. And then if you cannot, then cannot lah. Then we go watch a cinema and buy some popcorn and drink milk bubble tea, and that's it, that kind of thing. And it's funny, even my best friend Luke Elijah, he always says to me, he's like, you always do your best when people tell you can't do it. And I'm like, yes, because I'm quite arrogant in that sense, that I'm like, don't you tell me what I can or cannot do, how dare you.
And how did you get your first agent, which I believe was the catalyst for the incredible career that you've had since?
So I was back in Singapore. I was working for the Women's Weekly. I was on set with this model called Rachel Scantilan, which was beautiful. And I did this makeup for her. And she goes, oh, darling, it's really nice. You should call my friend. And I was like, okay, why? He goes, oh, he's an agent. And I was like, okay, why? I emailed him actually. That time emailing was a very big deal. And I said this. And he goes, sure, all right, we'll get you into the agency. I'm like, huh? That's really fast. I attached some pictures and images of what I've done. And he goes, yeah, we'll get you into the agency. And it just worked from there. And when I got to Melbourne and I went to the agency, all the agents like look up and go, yes. And they're like, hi, I'm Nigel Stanislaus. I'm here just to say hello. I'm new to the agency. And they go, no, we don't have an appointment. I'm like, oh, this is so embarrassing. It turns out that this boss was waiting in Sydney. There were 2 branches. He thought I moved to Sydney and not Melbourne.
Do you feel like once you had that agent that everything changed and all these opportunities started coming?
That's a very interesting topic about whether the agent gets you work or not. I think it's a partnership. When I first started until today, obviously the power has shifted a lot. I've obviously become more established, and also this social media. But back in the day, the agent holds a lot of weight in getting your work because they're like the directory to help you find work. And yeah, I got a lot of work from them. And then through the agency, I met a lot of people as well and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, definitely. He got me, the Bardo and all the other jobs.
How important do you think that social media is for your work and just raising your profile?
When it first started, it was a bit of fun. And then after that, I realized there was such a thing as Instagram makeup artists, because somebody came to me and go, can you do a cut crease for me? I'm like, I'm not the tailor. Like, I don't understand what you're talking about. And then I was like, oh my God, all these kids' social media terms that were starting out quite a few years ago. And now there's like a crossbreed, a hybrid between. It's really rude to say real makeup artists and non-real makeup artists. There are different kinds of makeup artists now that, so if you're a social media makeup artist, basically how you know is you have a lot of fun with your makeup. You put on a lot of makeup, but usually the faces are their own. And they can do like clouds and rainbows and things, and you can stack off as many lash strips as they want, because the art director or the client for them is themselves. For people like me, our client art director are brands. So I don't get to do what I want always. I can suggest, but there's a lot more money involved and a lot more investment involved. When you look at my account, it's not as exciting as theirs because it's actually all the latest works that I have done. It's quite opposite. Like 99.999% of the makeup are the people that are not my face, are models' faces. But for Instagram social media, are probably their faces. If you know what I mean. There's no time limit. If you're at home doing your own makeup. On set, sometimes you do it in a dark, sometimes you do it in a rocking car, in a boat or something like that. You have 15 minutes to get it done. The pressures are very, very different. Sometimes you have to do it and then shoot it underwater, things like that, or it's raining. So you need to know a lot, like the gamut of knowledge to be a working makeup artist is huge. It's not just like, hi guys, I just want to show you this lip color. I'm not saying that they're less than us, but it shouldn't even be together. It's a totally different breed. Like a pastry chef should not be a hawker chef, a cook. Totally 2 different worlds. But they're all food, but totally different. So it shouldn't even be compared like that.
What is the wildest brief that we've gotten before, and how do you break it down and think, oh, this is how I'm going to execute it?
Oh my God, they're all pretty wild. Like, I remembered once we had to shoot on a sheep farm, acres and acres of land for Mimco, and the wind was like close to a typhoon. My friend Kath Wills wanted the model's hair to be big like a lion, like this. And I couldn't, like, you walk out and then it's just gonna like fly like, like the flag. It's so crazy. And we had to do it. And I remember I was using something like wires at the back of the head just to like pin everything down. So you could only shoot her from the front and not the side because it would look like an Egyptian sphinx. Like it's not round here, it's like all stuck. But from the front, it's convincingly really round, but it's a lot of side effects. A lot of strange things. What else did I have to use? Didn't bring nail polish one time and had to use lip gloss just to paint over and don't touch the fingers, that kind of thing. One time we didn't have eyeliners, like liquid eyeliner. And then I thought, I just use a bit of mascara with a brush and I painted over and it still worked and all things like that. So you really need to improvise and need to be smart about it and be gracious about it as well. Because you're dealing with someone and you don't want to have that energy with because you must understand it's an exchange of energy between you and the model or the celebrity. And your job is to make sure they're ready mentally, in their heart, on their facial features, everything's all done as they walk up and do their job. So it's a supporting role when you're a makeup artist. You have to make sure they're good here, they're good here, and they're good here. But if you're going, like this, and they're getting like, what's wrong? What's wrong? Am I spoiling your day? Like they're going to walk out questioning themselves, and that's the worst. So a good makeup artist would know how to, once you're finished, you're like, it's amazing.
No matter what, keep your cool.
I guess the front of house is always smiling, and then the back of house is like, oh my gosh, that kind of thing. Yeah, always.
How do you